is nice.
Ajak Shamash. My name is Franklin. This is a very special Borat episode. This is Jay Lewis and my friend Jessica, my non-male friend Jessica. Welcome to the special Borat 2 episode of Whiskey and Friends.
I'm fresh out of the woman cage.
Sorry about the terrible impression. There will be a lot of them in this
They're gonna be
episode.
so
And so today we will be drinking one of my all-time favorite whiskeys. You know, one of the Vito Corleone of whiskeys of Scotland. One of the Vito Corleone Scotch. This is ARDBEG 10, one of my favorites, one of the best whiskeys that you can buy at the best price, one of the smokiest, and it has inspired the so-called Facebook ARDBEG cult, as it's called. And look at this beautiful bottle, WOWAWIWUA. WOWAWIWUA.
You can tell this is a special episode because for once we've actually coordinated a drink for all three of us.
Yeah, I mean, we were supposed to coordinate on another one, but guess who screwed the pooch on that one?
You, right?
You guys, I was in the woman cage. I did not have access to the internet.
I drank it all before the episode. You should have let me know.
If you speak to her too much, the strings in her brain might break. She already had a stroke already. She's confused.
I heard
this movie is amazing. This movie is amazing. And we had to pick an amazing whiskey to accompany it. ARDBEG 10. ARDBEG, one of the best distilleries in all of Scotland. They say...
I'm so anxious
they call themselves the best distillery in Scotland. That's arguable, but they make a really good case. It's certainly one of the smokiest. It's also an Islay distillery. And let's dive in.
Do it.
Ooh, smoke came out of that. Ooh, that was nice.
Sounds
WOWAWIWUA. WOWAWIWUA. Ooh. I'm gonna get a lot of this one because it's epic.
The Borat 2 came out kind of like out of nowhere, didn't it?
Yeah, it's smoke. Here, smoke came out like.
Oh, we're talking about my bad. I'm so excited about the movie.
so good.
Yeah.
I'm equally excited about the whiskey, but I'm also excited about the movie.
It's just
in fact,
like
I'm gonna pour
already
myself more of this
smoky
whiskey.
all around, smoky, charcoaly, barbecue all around.
Oh my god.
Oh wow, that is strong. That is like a very strong smell, and it's crazy because this whiskey is it's a 46%. It's also a very clear in color, so you know that this came straight out of the barrel that it was matured in. Oh, good God.
It's barbecue time.
It's barbecue time. This is full on barbecue all the way through. You can get a lot of the peat smoke charcoaly smell, like even at the beginning. But one thing that I like is that this whiskey kind of changes throughout. It's one of the things that makes this whiskey, in my opinion, such like I don't know, like so good despite its age, so good despite its price. Like this whiskey changes throughout. It's complex. It changes, gets sweeter, gets saltier. But initially, it's just so smoky, and it does feel like a barbecue. You know, you compare this to the Talisker, and it's tame in comparison. It's like if you smell the barbecue with Talisker, here you're eating the fucking lump of coal. like you're just biting into it, like, but it tastes great.
So good. And honestly, for me, I got this in New Hampshire, so it's a little cheaper in New Hampshire, but I got it for $41.99, which is the cheapest bottle that we've done so far.
Yeah.
I mean, here in New York City, I got mine for $47.99. It wasn't
That's
bad.
amazing.
That's before tax, of course.
In Ace Spirits, it costs like $40, I think. With shipping, of course. The shipping, adds to it. But yeah, you can find it.
So this whiskey is great value for the flavors that are in it.
I know.
Even if it were more expensive, it would be great value for the flavors.
Absolutely.
Are you getting some of the salt? the salt in the taste.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, you know, a bit of transparency. This isn't the first time I've had this whiskey. I've had this before while having a Rambo movie marathon with Franklin at one point. And that's kind of where the inspiration for this podcast came from.
I love that. Yeah.
And also in my birthday. In my birthday, we had some of this. Yeah. We had some of this, and then we had some Lagavulin because I went all in my birthday.
Yep. So back then, all these flavors to me was just an experience that made me lightheaded, and it was a lot of flavors for me to take in. Smoky whiskey is the first time I was having a smoky whiskey. Now that I'm sipping on this, I have more of an understanding of what kind of flavors are in here. I know what's coming from that initial hit of smoky, and I can start looking for those other flavors. Whereas back then, I don't know, I had popcorn to wash down the other flavors.
Yeah. Isn't it insane, right? How your palate just gets like accustomed to it. And so that's one of the things that's great about tasting is that you kind of, you try hard to associate the flavors to something. But the point is that you become used to detecting them. You become used to, well, I know what this tastes like. In my mind, this is close to me tasting vanilla, me tasting honey. Also, notice how the whiskey just like smokes out your entire mouth. And this is crazy because this is not a cask strength. It doesn't need to be a cask strength to do this. So when I drink the ARDBEG, he's taking out like a cask strength or something. I don't know what he's doing.
No, I'm just reading the...
Yeah, it's 46%, right?
Yoshi, no!
Yoshi! Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you can read that, but it says it's not a cask.
My camera is better.
Look at those words that we can read.
Sometimes I'm a dick for the sake of being a dick. And so it's crazy because I recently reviewed, this was the first El Whiskey review episode was ARDBEG 10, and I went through the end of the bottle, but I need to have ARDBEG in my collection. ARDBEG is a staple of my collection. It is a staple. It keeps other whiskeys to a standard. It is one of the whiskeys that makes me say, you know, still there are only 3 or maybe 4 great smoky distilleries so far, and one of them is ARDBEG. And so imagine if this is smoky, the 56% Oakdale and the 55% Oakdale and the 57% Corey Vrechen are even smokier. So let's just enjoy this.
So good.
Yeah, it's peppery. Did you get some of the pepperminty taste that I described before?
Peppermint?
Yes.
Not particularly peppery.
It's kind of like, yeah, I get peppery, but then like
it's refreshing like peppermint.
Exactly.
Yeah.
As you like kind of breathe it in, it becomes
opens.
like peppermint in your mouth. Like take a sip and then breathe in.
Woo! It's a jingle in the back, yeah.
Yeah,
Right?
look at that reaction.
Man,
Yeah,
I wasn't ready for it.
It's wonderful because it's so complex. Again, this is a 10-year whiskey that arguably I would, you know, after tasting this, I could buy it at $70 because compared to other $70 whiskeys, the complexity that this has is just crazy. Like when I was comparing in one of the El Whiskey review episodes, I was comparing the Balmore 12, 15, and 18. I could hold either of those whiskeys to the standard of ARDBEG 10 and they wouldn't get there. Maybe the 18, which was the oldest, but again, 8 years of extra maturation. So that's one of the reasons why I hope that someday I can buy an older ARDBEG. They sell them, but they're like hella expensive.
Oh, wow.
But it seems like it would be so worth it.
Right? If this is this good at 10 years, oh my God.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, so let's talk about Borat. So
actually, before we move on from the whiskey,
yeah,
I think it's so interesting how you just taught us a different technique for getting different tasting notes on the whiskey.
Thanks.
Cheers.
And
what other ways can we taste this? Cheers. Actually, what other ways can we taste this for this? Cheers.
So the glass. So this glass is very important, and it's currently like the standard of whiskey tasting, because as you know, you remember when we had that Lagavulin in New York, and these people weren't using any form of air conditioning. They were just letting the door open, and so
it was
the
a
bottles.
cool day.
It was a March cold day. It was maybe like 50 something, or 40 something degrees. But the point is, the bottles got cold. So when we had a sip of Lagavulin, it tasted like crap. And the reason why was because alcohol is not, this type of alcohol is meant to aerate. It's meant to evaporate, release its smells, and influence your palate. What you smell on the nose and what you're tasting overall joins up in the same spot of your brain and turns into the full tasting profile. And so what this whiskey does is, instead of giving it open space for all of the air to come in and all of the smells to just like leave the cup immediately, the glass immediately, what it does is instead it focuses on here. And so when you're taking a sip, you smell at the same time. You incorporate your nose and you incorporate the tongue at the same time. So you get a full palate range. So that's one of the reasons why I now collect these glasses. And that's one of the reasons why whiskey judges and, actual whiskey experts, they even have lids to keep, these whiskeys as as constant as possible when they're tasting multiple things. Yeah.
That's amazing.
So I would say
the
next
best I could do.
But that's good. That's good. So I would say the next thing would be.
The next best thing I have is like a wine glass, which does close up a little bit at the top.
Yeah.
And in hindsight, I think I would use that for the next episode.
I think this is ideal for Scotch. Yeah, I think this is ideal for Scotch. That may be ideal for bourbon and rye, because bourbon and rye have more of an alcohol taste. Since they're less matured, they taste a bit more like alcohol, and so evaporating some of that may actually give you a full range of all the sweetness that they're capable of. But with the Scotch, you kind of really want to take it in the way it is. However, if you're tasting a Scotch that's like 50 to 60%, that you may want to dilute it, or keep sipping, make this small amount of whiskey last around 15 to 20 minutes, because as it evaporates, and so it will change. You can even do this and also aerate it a bit more. So if you do this a little bit, you may notice that ARDBEG got sweeter, got very sweet.
I love it. So good.
It got fruitier, it got honeyed. It still retains the smoke and the salt, but the smoke is actually even less part of the nose now, and the nose has gotten a lot sweeter. And so that's one of the things I love about ARDBEG, is you can play with it and you can get so many different things. And honestly, I could take up like an entire episode talking about ARDBEG.
I love it.
But let's finally.
Why don't we do an episode like that?
We could do that. I honestly.
We'll do an episode where we just play with a whiskey like ARDBEG or something, and just play with different techniques.
That sounds like an amazing thing to also do. Yeah.
I need to invest in it.
Like and subscribe, and let us know in the comments if you want us to do this. This could be an additional segment. Actually, I would love to do this with all the whiskeys that we've so far kind of collected. Actually do a full range tasting.
Yes.
So right. So I think Borat, such a character. It is one of the most iconic characters in the past decade and a half. It has inspired tons of parodies, tons of terrible accents. It
Franklin's in particular.
Right, mine in particular. I'm actually giving myself a hard time. Yours was terrible. And influencing comedy in what I consider to be a pre-social network era. Before everything was under constant discussion and debate. Borat was like a movie that changed the perception of comedy. I think Borat it always kind of reminds me of Jackass, because it feels like unscripted throughout. But it's like Jackass
that was one of the
documentary.
Things that,
meets Jon Stewart and The Daily Show, because they do so much satirical stuff, and it also adds Seth Rogen-y humor, like penises everywhere, and our main exports are pubis and women, those kinds of jokes that you just go oh my god,
potassium. That's
I
so
think,
random to me.
I think this movie is a masterpiece in its own
so
right.
Absolutely.
Sacha Baron Cohen is the type
He
of
knocked
artist
it out of the park. Yeah,
He's
I
a
know.
genius.
yet
He
again,
absolutely
and he's
is.
the type of artist that we got to protect from cancellation.
Absolutely.
In
Oh
an
my
era
God.
of terrible reboots and sequels that nobody freaking asked for, Borat 2 represents the best out of the anything can happen moment that we are in film industry,
Yes.
which is, they can bring back a character that's controversial, that's hard to even film because of the fame that it garnered. Now he couldn't be Borat on the streets, he had to be
I love that
Borat
they addressed
dressed.
that.
I loved
Exactly.
him. So funny.
Borat dressed as a character to even further fool people. I thought, is genius.
It's so good.
Mhm.
It's so true. And what you say too about the cancellation, I'm just like, I'm so happy because I'm a Jewish American and I laughed at the Holocaust jokes that he made. And
you are
so
not the
funny.
devil.
When he went into the synagogue with a bag of money, that way.
And a long nose.
And he had devil wings, and he was dressed in red, and he was like take
Any
me,
other
kill
context,
me,
that
kill
would
me,
just
Jews.
In any other context, that would instantly cancel you.
Absolutely. And when they were doing the Holocaust Remembrance Day as a rave,
They were excited about the Holocaust.
Commemorating our heroes who ran the camps.
so funny. And I think part of it is knowing that he's Jewish himself. So I'm like, oh, he doesn't want to kill me? It's just great. But also, it's so genius because what I loved about this movie and the first one is it has a perfect satire. It makes you it makes jokes out of people that have real views like this. Like when he went to and realized how ridiculous that is. Which the three of us, we already knew these views were ridiculous, but still to make it so potent. And also make people like us who think a completely different way realize that these other people on the other end of the spectrum are real and dangerous and disgusting.
Yeah.
Like when he went to the rally to perform the country song and then people were howling, that was chilling to me. I was like, oh my God, even though his song was so funny, it was that's just exposing a real side.
It was funny because it was so just shocking and jarring to me. That's what made me laugh. The reaction of the crowd. I don't know if they're if it's scripted or if it's actual reactions from people. I want to see the behind the scenes from this.
Right. So
this
the
and
thing
the first
is,
movie.
they really kept this whole thing really under wraps.
Yes.
That scene, it kind of got leaked as Sacha Baron Cohen dresses as a character and sings a country song in protest and all this crap. So that is how much people knew. And when the character that stormed into the what was it called, the CPAC meeting, and shouted at Pence, it was known maybe that this was Sacha Baron Cohen, but nobody knew that he was preparing a Borat film with all of these random sketches. So it was so genius because, and that's the thing, they were filming during, as coronavirus was starting. And so imagine all of the production and footage that they had to go through. But both Sacha Baron Cohen and Amazon wanted to make sure to release this film as soon as possible before Election Day to show the world, even more of all the crap that they found and show that they, Rudy Giuliani, which we will discuss later, Rudy Giuliani. But yes.
For those concerned, they took all the precautions they needed to take so they could film this film during the coronavirus epidemic. They followed social distancing guidelines. Whatever guidelines what's the name of this agency is, the Disease Agency, Center for Disease Control.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, CDC.
Yeah. They followed all the CDC guidelines they could, and they were very, very strict on testing. And anyone who was with someone who had proven tested within 15 minutes was, isolated and told to test and quarantine for 14 days before they could come back on set. So they, bless their heart, they took all the precautions they could to actually film this film, and I thank them for it.
Yes. Oh my God, the only thing that I wanted, that I
did not know I needed this film.
Same!
No, right?
I know.
I
It was a
like,
sequel no one asked for, but everyone needed.
Yes.
no, I watched
Contrary
Borat
to
1
everything
when I was-
else we've been talking about.
I watched Borat 1 and Bruno, like when I was like, we were really young, and to us, like the movies were like the
Yeah.
oh yeah, and so you know, they were like outlandishly funny. There was like
Yes.
stuff that was just like crazy, and we laughed at
Yeah.
that, but we had no idea of like all the satire in there. We just thought, you know, it's a gross
Absolutely.
film of an old man exposing himself
Yes.
at the time, an old hairy man exposing himself at the time. But we
Yes.
hadn't, and making a terrible accent, but we had no idea how much criticism and honest depiction of the
Mhm.
American people
Yes.
there is. Like,
Absolutely. Like in the abortion clinic,
yeah,
like it was like, oh my god, it's disgusting that
the
like
dude
this
didn't care.
didn't
Dude.
care at all.
In the abortion clinic, and they were still telling her not to get the abortion.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Like that's disgusting. And it's disgusting that in an abortion clinic, or like a female health clinic, that it is
Female health clinic, yes.
exactly like it has a pastor. Like that's unacceptable. You should have a medical opinion. You shouldn't have a religious
Exactly.
opinion.
And so
Like-
it's like pastors who are trained to fucking show you that there's a baby in there.
Yeah.
It's funny that they
shame you.
that they didn't like do a scene when they were actually trying to search for the baby, but I think they really didn't want them. They wanted to just make it clear
Yeah.
how much these people just care about the
Disgusting.
politics of
Absolutely.
just have the baby. We honestly don't care if you are the, you know, sinning and molesting your daughter. Just
Yeah.
have the child, because
Absolutely.
that's what our political stance is, no matter what.
Absolutely.
So
God
my
works in a
comments-
serious way.
yeah. So my comments in that sense, it's like from rude and crude humor to wonderfully played out and thoughtful
Yes.
satirical comments to
Absolutely.
a disturbingly accurate representation of American society today via pranks.
Yeah.
This movie hits all marks. And
Everything.
2 minutes in, I was already laughing my ass off with
Dying.
the Trudeau joke. I just like that moment. That's how, like, I was watching this movie like doing laundry and stuff. I thought, you know, maybe it'll be a little bit funny. Let's just burn off the time and watch it. As soon as I saw the Trudeau joke, I paused the thing and I just moved around my room laughing out loud. And I would look at the screen, laugh some more. The balls, but it's such, you know, it's criticizable. He made a mistake, but damn, like, you know, people get canceled for much less, Justin. So, you know, it's a funny joke, and he apologized for it and everything, but it's so savage. And that's what comedy is. Like, comedy should be savage. Comedy should be great, you know?
And that's the thing where I feel like what's amazing about this movie is, you know, the heart is to expose evil. It itself does not believe what it's preaching. Like, and that's what a satire is. And that's why it's therapeutic instead of being horrifying. Even though it's horrifying to see real people's reactions in support of it, you're like, oh no, right?
When they
Like,
exposed all of the alt-right conservatism.
Yes. Oh, it was gross. Like, how do people think this way? It's just like gross. And my only criticism of the movies, I know they did the best they could, but I wish it came out sooner because so many people have already voted. Like, I wish to try to get more Biden votes. I am like doing every like ritual. I'm lighting every candle.
10
like,
minutes in and we're already political.
Exactly, right?
Just like episode 1.
But
Whoa!
this is a political movie, though.
Yes.
True.
I just like am praying more than anything. Like, this movie affects anyone who is on the right and is like, oh, maybe I will switch to my vote.
back when Borat 1 came out, I really could not see like the impact of this satire being released. But now that I'm older, like seeing Borat 2 in like the time period that we are living in, all the social commentary on all the stuff that I believe in, all the stuff that I think is ridiculous. Yeah. It's just been almost eye-opening and like reinforcing of my own beliefs.
Absolutely. Same.
It's just... I wonder how impactful I wish I was this aware so I knew how impactful Borat 1 was.
Right, when it came out. I remember also, side note about Borat 1, and this is not deep at all. This is not a deep commentary on the first, but I remember seeing it when it came out in theaters with my mom. And I
didn't see it until yesterday.
Oh, really? Oh, my
Yeah, really?
Wait, what was your reaction to the scene where they were naked, like running around? Because I had never laughed so hard in my entire life.
It was
I
like,
in
they really
pain.
filmed. I'm just here like, the actors really did that.
They did.
Yeah, they did.
How much are they paying them for this?
Bro.
This is
Not enough.
This is incredible. You know the balls you need to make a scene like that?
Bro, did you remember we watched Bruno? Bruno is
We
I
watched
worse.
love Bruno.
Yeah.
I love it. It was so
Bruno
good.
is much more
Graphic.
Even
so
the
much more
lady at
sex
the
commentary.
box office, dude. Even the lady at the box office was like, I mean, it's Bruno. It's more than just an R-rated movie.
It's more.
Yeah, I mean, you remember that hilarious scene? You know, his boyfriend is a little Asian
Yeah.
man, and he was like, they were making all of these like terrible gay sex scenes, and one of them was like, his boyfriend was like, I think ricocheting from like, so they had like a giant rubber band, and so he was like on a chair, and he was just like pulling himself back and Borat, and Bruno was just like this, and so they just like slingshot on each other and go like, and you go like, you just go like,
Okay.
what the fuck is going on? When he was like, he had a vacuum and he was like vacuuming his ball. And you could see him through the vacuum and everything. Oh god,
Oh my god.
that was so funny.
So good. I just love it.
Yeah, and so I think one of the great, also the movie just really expresses something that is a little bit disturbing, but it's the truth. Is that, you know, it's not just Facebook trolls, it's not just Twitter trolls. Some people really do feel these things, like
which
the
is
hate
worth
or
it.
blame towards Mexicans, and going like, yeah, it's justified that they are in cages, like when he went like, and Donald Trump locks up Mexicans, and the guy was like, hell yeah, he does. The old guy, because they blame Latinos, they blame us for and they don't even know why. The thing is
Yeah.
that they've redirected so much hate
Mhm.
and so much disdain towards us for years and years and years. It has eventually just made them hateful towards us, because they think that their hate will solve things. They think that the way that they act or disdain us or wish to have us in these terrible conditions, you know, taking kids away from their parents, caging fucking kids, they feel like this is the solving to their problems, because that's what politicians and Fox News, especially Fox News media, has fed them. And Breitbart has just like, you know, has just like piggybacked on that same idea and just made it even worse.
Yeah.
And so I think like even Fox News is kind of like repenting from all the things they've done sometimes. Like they go like, oh, even us today, we're like not supporting what Trump just said, because they've started to sometimes realize how crazy their bullshit rhetoric has taken the American public to being hateful and violent. And you can't be the best country. Yeah. And so you can't be the best country in the world. You can't call yourself the best country in the world. You can't call yourself the freest country in the world when you have
really
the most
exactly
when you have the most per capita people imprisoned, when you have riots going on for months and months on end despite quarantine.
Yes.
And you have a president who is mocked by the entire world, like Bush was mocked, but Trump is fucking ridiculed. People
Rightfully
are
so.
afraid, and at the same time, cannot stop ridiculing the people who elected him.
Yeah.
And I think of this in a way like when my family and I, we migrated to this country, we immigrated to this country. We came to the United States because we ran away from dictatorships. We ran away from military rule. We ran away from not having any freedom, from the possibility that your cousin, your brother, your sister could be disappeared by the government for random interrogations or for opposing any of their ideas. And that would be acceptable. That would be, you would have to accept it or you were gonna die in the curve. And we came to this country to get away from these things, to have And in so many ways, what we and my sister and I have had, which was many opportunities to excel, many opportunities to be educated in the best places that we can be. But at the same time, this country is taking such a turn.
Mhm.
And even my parents cannot believe it. Explaining to my parents how the electoral college worked, and seeing the face of my father just go like, wait, so American democracy doesn't work? And I'm like,
Right.
yeah. And you see that even in these people, they have such anger towards and violent thoughts towards Hillary Clinton and Obama, and they blame them for everything. They don't even know that the people that they follow are just making everything worse.
Absolutely.
And how this health situation became politicized, it's just crazy.
It is crazy. It's disgusting. It's absolutely. Yeah. That's
So-
how my family got. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
That's how my family got to America too. So we're Jewish, and we immigrated from Ukraine because our house was literally set on fire, like the whole village was, because we were Jewish. And we came to America, and it's hard because you see current America and you're disgusted, and even past America too, like with Bush and everything. And it's hard because you want to feel like I'd be dead if it wasn't for America. But then you see, why are we not letting in immigrants? Like, that's what makes America great. Like, to be a salvation for people who would be dead otherwise. Because that's why I'm great.
I'm somehow taking the PhD jobs that's somebody who dropped out of some white dude who dropped out of high school is somehow entitled to. Yeah. Like, I don't fucking like.
Oh,
like I don't know what jobs I'm taking. I came to this country fairly. I had to work harder than most people that I grew up with. That is a sentiment that my mom recently revealed to me. She said, I was hard on you because I knew that for you to ever be able to succeed, you had to work harder than everybody you were going to school with. And right. Even the American, the gringo. No, I'm kidding. I never saw you that way. I saw you as the Dominican friend from my I want to take a pause because we have so much more to discuss about this movie, and to be honest, like we spent like 10 minutes on ARDBEG.
Yeah.
I think for a film as special as Borat 2, we can give ourselves the break to record a bit more. Yeah. So
and that means more tangents for you guys.
More tangents for you guys? Well, not necessarily. I'm gonna keep y'all in check, but but be right back after this pause, and stick around.
Bye. See you later.
Ajak Shamash, we are back from the pause, and Jay Lewis is doing something freaky with his tongue. My name is Borat, and this is second part of Borat 2 movie review.
Part 2.
I could do more of that on the next episode.
Please.
Please no.
Please no. Dude, didn't you find just so hilarious when Borat would say some shit, again, like the Trudeau comment, like Barack Obama made it possible for other black politicians to become mandatories, and they show Justin Trudeau in fucking blackface. But when they did that comment of, so I decided to give my daughter to Mike Pence, a notorious pussy hound. It was just like, that is so fucking funny because the man represents conservatism and strong values like no other motherfucker. Like he is.
And by the end of the movie, he's actually convinced to change his ways.
Yeah.
I love that about Borat. I love that about this movie too. So that was one of the things that I wanted to add and discuss is the feminist themes that they touch in this movie.
Yes.
So sort of like, I think they did that in the first movie. Jay watched it more recently than any of us, where they kind of show Borat having a change of mind and being taught how his ways are wrong. But in this movie, it's even more radical because his culture, or at least, his pretend culture, is exceedingly repressive towards women.
The woman cage.
He's kind of like The Handmaid's Tale. By representing the extremes, he's really representing what in reality just isn't conceivable or doable, but it's highly possible given the political climate and how aggressively conservative sometimes people are.
Yeah.
So it is not impossible to instead of doing things as like extreme as putting them on a cage, but instead like taking away all of their healthcare, all of women's healthcare, limiting women's education as the Taliban does. So it's like all of these things just kind of blended into a story in which Borat mends his ways via his daughter, and I thought that was so beautiful too.
Right? Oh, did y'all get emotional when he let her into the back of his truck instead of into her woman cage? Like, how sweet.
That was so sweet.
It was a step up. It was sweet. Compared to the cage.
She
was
having
happy
to the
with it.
cage.
It was...
I laughed so hard, like when they were in Kazakhstan, and she's like, I like want like a beautiful woman cage like across the street, and she's like flipping her off, like she's like
and when he goes like, how old are you? And she says 15. You are the oldest unmarried woman in all of Kazakhstan. Fucking die. Just like in that part where he makes out with his sister and you don't know it's his sister.
Right, that first,
he goes,
in the
this
first
is
movie.
my sister, the fourth greatest prostitute in all of Kazakhstan, after he just
trophy.
freaking like tongue
Made out with her for like a good 5 seconds.
I know.
Yes.
Oh, this movie's so amazing.
It's crazy, but it's
That was
actually
Borat 1, by the way.
Yeah, and when he showed his mother and he goes, this is my mother, she's 43 years old, and it was like a very like old lady, like 9 years
Super old lady. She's like, she is the oldest woman in Kazakhstan. She is 43.
Oh, God. It's crazy though, because in USSR, like that's like so real. Like in the satellites too, like Kazakhstan, like back when it was USSR, like you could get, because of the housing regulations, you could get better housing if you were married. So it encouraged women to like marry younger, and like you could get even better if you had a baby. So like, and it was hard to change housing situations in USSR. Like, so if you had a baby after you were married, like, and you were already in your housing situation, it was hard to get like upgrade to like a larger situation that would be more accommodating for kids. So that's why there's that stereotype of like young Eastern European women like popping out kids, getting married like very young. And it's so true. Like a lot of the people I know who immigrated more recently from Eastern Europe, they like want to be like MILFs, like young MILFs. Like that is the thing. Like they're like it's a pressure that still like has followed from USSR, even though we don't have those same housing rules.
Yeah, we have a friend who's her family was from was it Uzbekistan? No.
Oh, Uzbek.
No, wait,
yeah.
no, wait. No. Jay, do you remember? Azerbaijan. And so she had her family has these like old customs, and her community overall just like influences her in such a way. And it really like came back from Europe to there. But overall, I think one of the things that just made this movie, I think possibly even better than the first one, is that at first you had, Borat being like misogynist and having all these opinions. And yes, we show him how ridiculous he is. But the thing is, in this movie, they have a redemption arc, and they have his daughter. So they have like an actual woman whom they have, who has all these Hollywood terrible supposed Kazakhstan values, and she herself has a big change and realizing that she can take control of her body, her sexuality, her life, her personal economy, her studies, be an intelligent person, and it doesn't have to depend on a man, and she won't go to hell, or the world won't end because of her doing it,
or she won't be sucked into her own vagina.
She won't get sucked into her own vagina. Yes. And so, I think
she stole the show.
Oh,
she stole the show. She's so good. Borat had savage moments, but like she really made the movie even better.
They were so great.
They clicked so well, and that made the movie even better. Because
Oh
if it were just like another hour and a half of just Borat, it may not have worked.
Right.
I don't think it would have stuck.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have without a female lead alongside Borat.
Exactly.
Because you need someone to have changed, I guess, on both genders to really, make it believable that Borat would also change his ways.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Did you find so hilarious that part? Johnny the Monkey, our Minister of Culture, and also our biggest porno star. And I just laughed so hard.
Just
and then
reminded me of Idiocracy. I think it was Terry Crews' character, is like President Camacho, also the most famous porn star.
And then when he was setting up the room for Johnny the Monkey, and it had like vagina angles of monkeys, I was dying laughing. I just couldn't believe how savage, like, how un-PC and unapologetic this movie is. And that was just like at the start, it got even progressively better. So I wanted to discuss what I thought you guys can add to some of the most savage moments from this epic film. I thought some of the most savage moments were, of course, the Trudeau comment. Even though it was like the one Trudeau comment, it was still such a savage joke. Such a savage joke. I felt like I was already in a Comedy Central roast. The Disney parody, I have...
Yes!
I can't. It was
Disney
so
parody
good.
slayed me. Oh my god.
I was destroyed.
The entire time, her idea of what being a perfect woman was being that Melania from that Disney movie.
And it's so fucked up. And he grabbed her by the pussy. He grabbed her by the
dancing.
And then danced with her.
And that's so fucked up.
Liked it.
Like,
it's so fucked up because this is the effect that Disney has had on women. Over the past century. Disney has influenced how women perceive a relationship, how women perceive marriage, how women perceive happiness.
Yes.
And so they took all of that, made it a huge criticism, and adapted it to this bullshit, fairy tale story that they've sold us and shoved down our throats, despite Trump being like the most anti-immigration president in, since like in the last 100 years.
Yeah.
They sell us this bullshit story about how Melania's relationship with Trump is beautiful, even though she's also an immigrant, and both her and her parents got their visas and citizenship via this marriage. So it's all bullshit. But then they do all of this criticism about him being a prince and being with Jeffrey Epstein. And I thought it was so... And did you notice how small the boner was? Being more tortured than he was ever before. I was laughing my ass off. I cannot believe
it was thumb sized.
Exactly. I cannot believe how fantastic this movie was. Really.
So good. Oh my god, that was my favorite. Like, that was maybe one of my favorite jokes. But
they spared no expense. They pulled no punches.
Exactly. It looked just like a VHS fucking Disney movie. As a person who grew up watching these in Spanish as well, my parents would buy Spanish translations of Disney movies, and we would watch those. And, seeing like the VCR lines, the white lines just kind of like move around, and the movie feeling like old and cartoonish. Yeah. Good God.
It's so true. It was nostalgic and also terrifying, and also like destroyed that nostalgia, which was great because the nostalgia is like of something that has made expectations of women and like reshaped women's expectations of themselves. So
we've come a long way since the 80s.
Hell yeah.
To go further on the list of savage moments, dressing up as a KKK member in the CPAC was so funny. Seeing the reaction.
I wasn't expecting it, but when I saw it, I was like, why didn't I expect this?
It was so funny seeing the reaction of white people at the CPAC, confronted by the reality of what they actually support. Because even if they don't directly support the KKK, by supporting the party that, advocates silently for the KKK to still exist, advocates for racism and for white supremacism to still exist in the country, they are supporting the KKK. So might as well have KKK members openly show themselves in the fucking CPAC. It's so genius.
It is genius. And it's weird because like you don't see him being like escorted out walking in. They're just like, they're looking at him like, oh, there's a KKK person here. But then he only gets escorted out when he starts like bad-mouthing, like when he's dressed up like Trump and causing a disturbance. And they're like, oh no, now let's escort him out. Like the KKK was
he's
fine.
Carrying that girl like a Neanderthal on his shoulder. I have a gift for you, Pence. Oh my god.
So funny.
The entire time I'm watching this movie, I'm like, how did they get these politicians to film these scenes?
Yes, like the Rudy Giuliani one. Oh my god.
So that's the thing. They pranked him into thinking this was an interview.
Right?
I do know they modified a lot of the scenes, so they kind of played with the camera work and stuff. But Rudy got himself into that dressing room. He touched his groin in that dressing room.
In the bedroom.
In the bedroom, in the bedroom, and he
God.
He knew what he was kind of doing, and so.
On tape, like stuff that we already knew, like from scandals before, but just to be on tape in real time, being like, please, for the love of Jesus, like, who can see this movie and then like be like, you know what, voting for Trump still seems like a good idea.
And so that was one of the savage moments, humiliating Rudy Giuliani, right
great.
below bombing the CPAC, dressed as Trump, holding a woman and going, Micah Pence. And he said Mike Penis. He said, Mike Penis, this is a woman for you, and that kind of stuff. And that was. Do you guys want to know what my last savage moment of the movie was?
Yes.
Switching
last.
I mean, the last that I put in this quick, put up slide that put up list that nobody helped me do.
I'm still shook. I have no recollection of anything. Tell me.
Bro, because there was so much in the movie, right? So
yes!
That's one of the reasons why I thought the Disney parody was my favorite, because it just stood out so well that I had to replay the movie the next day and talk about that scene, and nobody had watched it yet, and it's just so amazing. So I think one of the last savage moment that I listed was switching the Jew run from the first film to the running of the American, and how Karen comes in at the end and Karen kills Fauci and the
scientist.
Yeah, exactly. And so they go like, America successfully killed science. It was so damn savage. Like, so good. It was a bomb. Like, that just exploded into, it was an exploding frustration of, it was an exploding boom of frustration, satire, comedy, and truth.
Truth. I'm drinking to truth.
Drinking to truth, you guys.
Drinking to truth.
Woo!
Yeah. Cheers.
It's just me, or this got sweeter.
It's delicious. It is definitely my greatest.
It's not just you.
And you notice it has a long finish. By finish, I mean like after you sip it, the taste just lasts for seconds on seconds to even minutes. You get smoke like that lasts. In my palate right now, the smoke lasted like 10 seconds. 10 to more seconds. And you see, when you taste non-complex whiskeys, or especially immature whiskeys, and you compare to something like this, the difference is so incredible. Like, for example, Bowmore, as I said in the El Whiskey review, Bowmore gave me like a little bit of taste of smoke. Yeah, cross-promoting. It's the same channel. Fuck it. It gave me a little bit of smoke, but it was so subtle and went down immediately. I was just like, if this is branded as a peated whiskey, as a strong peated whiskey, it's really not that at all. And ARDBEG 10 beats all of them. So do you think Borat 2 is a worthy sequel?
Oh, yeah.
Hands down. Yeah. Like, it was such a worthy sequel that you barely even needed to watch the first movie to get this one, because it was so, it was commentary and criticism in the moment that was so accurate.
Absolutely.
As someone who didn't watch the first movie, I can 100% attest to that statement. You don't need to watch the first one to watch the second one. The first one will improve your enjoyment of the second one, because there are some jokes that are in there that came from the first one.
Like the Jew run.
At the very beginning. And the Jew run, of course, yes.
Yeah, the Jew run, yeah.
So funny. And something, and not talking about politics, but something that is so great about this sequel, just like in terms of being a sequel to an iconic first film, that a lot of other sequels fail. They kind of get out what you expect in the first 10 minutes. Like, they say all the catchphrases. They show him in his
It's the same fucking Borat. Yeah, he hasn't changed.
So they show you like the things that were so laughable the first one, things that are iconic that you remember. So, and then they get it out of the way to make new jokes and new iconic things. Yeah. So you're like, okay, I'm satisfied because
he had the same bikini, the same swimsuit.
That was so funny when he was at the top of like the strong man.
Yeah. Actually, I even came
I didn't
up
think
with
about that at all. That's actually very true. Go on, Frank.
I just thought about an even more savage moment. The fact that they made Kazakhstan like the spread of the coronavirus a supposed revenge from Kazakhstan to the United States for humiliating them. How savage was it that this movie was already in production?
Yes.
And they made up this ending.
So good.
That is so savage. The fact that he had been injected with something and he had spread COVID everywhere.
It's hilarious.
Dude.
The CPAC too, like where that was a major outbreak
In the CPAC, yeah.
Yes. Like it was him. It was so funny.
What the fuck?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god. What
Genius.
a movie. What a masterpiece. It is a masterpiece in its own right.
Oh no, Sacha Baron Cohen is definitely a genius. Like incredible satirical writing. But also
Exactly.
I love how smart it is while being so stupid at the same time. Like, that's my favorite kind of humor. Is things that can be highbrow and super lowbrow at the same time. Like the penis chair. That was so funny.
That was so funny. That was his producer from the first film, and it was so hilarious.
So funny. And then that's still happening at the same time as this genius satirical work. And you're like, I love that they can play both. Like,
Don't you
I
find
love
it funny that was kind of like Midsummer-ish? Like they would have random like nude or gory moments, and you'd just be like laughing about it.
Right? Like,
In this
I mean, every time there was a nude or gory moment, it was just like,
hilarious.
it is what it is. It was just presented in the moment. Like, sure, it was supposed to have some shock value, but the characters were like, yeah, I mean, this is how we live our life.
That's how we live our
Carry
life.
around like photos of like dudes that he had
His
shaved their
dick.
pubes. And the ending where they decide, because now they're a feminist nation, instead of exporting females, now they export young kids, and you go like, no.
It's better, but not better.
They should have put something like addressed to Ghislaine Maxwell. Oh, that would have been so fucking hilarious.
Oh, that would have been so good.
Ooh, that would have been so good. And one final question I want to ask you guys is: do you think in 14 more years, or 14, 15 more years, Borat could be released again?
Yes.
I hope not.
We have a counterpoint. Oh, okay. So Jess, why do you think?
I mean, I hope not, but I think it will. I don't think it's a counterpoint.
I feel especially like this is so geniusly done. Even though if cancel culture continues to become even more aggressive, I feel like there's going to be a movement on social media of cancel culture to cancel culture for something in support of this, because the overall message is so important to share. And it's like even makes fun of the things that cancel culture is trying to protect. Like, so it's like they're on the same team essentially, but they're using different approaches. So I think cancel culture will cancel culture in defense of something like this.
Sorry about that loud sip.
I love a loud sip.
I think in like anytime there's some serious social thing going on, someone is making a social commentary somewhere, whether it's Mark Twain or Shakespeare or
Sacha Baron Cohen.
Baron Cohen.
Yes.
Yeah. And whatever style they need to deliver their message, it's going to be delivered.
Absolutely.
I think there's always going to be something that culture just hasn't gotten quite right yet or is misguided about.
Yes.
And so they'll need some kind of commentary like this.
Yeah.
So I think in 14 years we will have another Borat.
I mean,
though not necessarily a Borat.
I didn't think that this was gonna work when I heard it announced, but by God did it. And also Seth Rogen was involved with this film as well. He was involved with some of the pranks and the sketches inside the movie.
That's amazing.
And so
I love Seth Rogen.
I thought this movie was so funny. I think really it can be done, but at the same time, like they would have to take the amount of time that they took with this character. And I think this is the first time since was it Ray J that Al J, or what was his like rapper character?
Oh, Ali G.
Ali G.
Ali
So
G.
it's like his first character since Ali G that I think he made 2 movies out of.
Right.
And you thought like
love
Borat was like dead. Borat was never, and he made
Borat was a one and done.
Me too.
Was a one and done.
I thought it was like a frat house.
Right. So that's something that, for example, happened initially, but maybe James Franco will make more like Dave Skylark movies. You know, Dave Skylark, the crazy celebrity interviewer,
Yeah.
interviewing people, and you know, these guests having absurd, weird moments. Like that is something that he said. Like, I kind of felt like I really liked this character and I wanted to do more with him. And if you go on YouTube, they published some short interviews that they made. You know, Dave Skylark interviewing Zac Efron is the best one. I'm just saying.
Need to see
it's fucking hilarious.
Because I love the interview. It was so good.
Yeah. We could totally watch it after this.
We have to.
All I can say is I hope and I have faith that America's a bit more woke now.
Please.
Oh,
like,
okay.
particularly with just the current presidency, more people have hit their break point where they can't stand what's going on anymore and they have to take action.
Please.
And I think we have more allies on our side.
Come on, man. We're going to elect a 70-year-old white man who's a Democrat. What? We're going to solve racism. Hey, come on.
It sounds like he's reformed. In the last debate.
His running mate is black. That's solving racism.
Yeah, he has a black friend, right? He can't be
racist. I didn't say that. Jay Lewis said that. But I agree with it. That's the kind of humor
you get in Borat,
but
bro.
I agree with it.
Right? Oh my God, I love it.
But unfortunately, fortunately, he's not that bad of a candidate, but you know, to the standards.
I like the parts where he was talking about how his opinions were reformed by the work that his daughter had done.
Yes,
which I think.
So no,
in hindsight,
there's a lot of good going for Biden. I just think he was not the best candidate for this time. But you know, it's what we have right now, and we can hold the Democratic Party accountable later. But right now, we need to have a Biden presidency because America is a rocket that's headed down, to crash. And right now, we either steer it up at a certain angle or we just let it crash further.
We're about to challenge her this shit.
Exactly. So that's what this movie was basically about. Look, whatever things you may feel against Democrats, look at what your side is doing to America. Look at what it's doing. We can negotiate different things.
Absolutely.
We can, as long as we have a democratic system and we try to educate people. And wow, Jay Lewis just left us. Oh, he came back. Cool. Did he turn off his camera just to fuck around?
Accidentally.
No, he went to go play some RuneScape and some Had a Full Boyfriend.
Now he's trolling us.
Apparently the space bar turns off your video.
Oh, nice.
I didn't know that.
So, I don't know. I thought this movie is a worthy sequel. This movie honored the Borat name, if not catapulted it to an even higher status of genius and pop culture. And so what are your guys' final thoughts on the movie?
My final thoughts were I loved Borat when it initially came out, even though I didn't understand all of it because I was so young. And then it went into frat boy humor territory where every frat guy and his mother was saying
very jackassy, right?
Yes. So then I felt bad for thinking it's hilarious. And then because of the sequel, I feel like it's okay for me to like the first Borat as well again. Yeah. Because it's taken out of that frat context, right? Because you couldn't get away from frat guys saying Malwai.
WOWAWIWUA. This is my sister. Yeah.
Because it's such a funny movie, but then it was claimed by the frat community as their movie. I'm like, no, let us all have it.
Named by the frat community, like an American Pie or something?
Yes,
yeah, basically.
American Pie is great, but it's something that has also been claimed by the frat community.
I think what it is that highbrow, lowbrow balance that they have. The lowbrow is a lot easier to just absorb.
Yes.
So I imagine as the times shifted away from what the Borat 1 was showing in America at the time, it started just being the lowbrow humor at the time.
Yeah.
But in the moment we are now, we see the highbrow version of the humor and how it actually is so prevalent in our time period right now. You could look at this movie as a historical timepiece.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a time capsule. And the first one was
a movie with dicks and vagina and vagine. With all these just not kosher scenes. You can actually look at this as a historical timepiece.
Absolutely.
And I think that's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Right.
Borat 2 is a very nice out of 10.
Really?
It's very nice. It's nice.
Very nice.
Cat.
Oh, I loved how he started the film with that, because that was a whole scene in the first film.
Yes.
Like, if you didn't watch the first film, you didn't catch that. And once
Right.
again, it was one of those things that was only in like the first 10 minutes. They set it up. They were like, all right, here's all the jokes you remember.
Exactly.
Blah, blah, blah. Let's go into the new stuff.
Yes.
Fantastic way to move on with a sequel.
So
Fan-fucking-tastic.
Right? Oh my goodness.
Mhm.
So
Cheers to
good.
Borat.
Cheers
Borat
to
2.
Borat. A
Cheers to
movie
Borat.
we needed.
We needed it. This got really vanilla.
Mm. Oh my goodness. I'm like picking up a note of it. Like definitely not as potent of a note as you're definitely being able to pick up, but I'm picking up like when you said vanilla, I'm like, oh.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I usually do my homework on whiskeys,
think
but ARDBEG is a whiskey that I've sat down and written my notes for, and I have them here.
Oh.
But I try to adapt to what I'm actually feeling at the moment.
Right.
Like, okay, this is something that I know that I felt. That's why writing is like very writing your notes is very useful. But that's what our tasting episodes could be about. So
yes, we could all write our separate notes, and then we could come together and be like, wait, I tasted Cheeto dust in this. Why didn't you guys?
Cheeto dust.
yeah. I was singing "Come Together" for people who were reading my lips. Right now, over me.
Wow, wow.
Anyway, no more sidetracks. This movie was
I
amazing.
can't promise no more sidetracks.
Yeah, this movie was amazing. This movie, again, such satire, such well-timed comedy, such amazing work by Sacha Baron Cohen, Seth Rogen, and the actress whom I will actually look up her name and say it in this podcast because goddamn, she deserves a lot of credit for
She was amazing.
how this movie turned out.
Look her up. Actually, we're going to make sure he gets the name. Go.
Right, her name is Maria Bakalova. Bakalova. So Maria Bakalova, hope we see much more of you.
Absolutely.
You're amazing.
Yeah.
It took
By the
some
way, Tom
real
Hanks. Do you remember the Tom Hanks like slight cameo in this movie?
Yes!
so funny.
Anyway,
It took some real Bobs and Vagine to film this film, Maria.
Yes.
And I applaud you.
we applaud you, we appreciate you, and thank
She's a
you
queen.
for what a wonderful film and what a wonderful time to talk about it before the elections. So we'll make
Right?
sure this episode goes out within the next week or so that that people can watch it and know that this movie is a keeper. This movie is amazing, and I hope Rotten Tomatoes doesn't illogically rate it, misrate it, because it was amazing. Cheers,
Absolutely.
friends.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
And also
Love
go
you
out and
guys.
vote if you haven't. Please, for the love of God, vote.
Go out and vote. All right. This has been Whiskey and Friends, and a very long episode at that, but we had a great time at it. And we will keep sipping ARDBEG in the behind the scenes that we don't record.
Yes.
So, take care, y'all.
Take care.
Cheers.
Bye.
Take care.
Vote.
Sláinte.
It's a lawn chair.
Oh,
Damn it, Jay.